every Sunday at 5 p.m. Studio B. Strange universe. A strange universe.
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
Are you a fan of rock and roll? Does it get your feet tapping and your hands clapping? Then be sure to check out Trip Rick's Rock and Roll Hour every Friday night, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern and Standard Time on Studio B right here at revolutionradio.com, where we get down and talk all things rock.
This is the People's War. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us.
Revolution Radio.
You're tuned to something different. No scripts, no limits, just pure, unfiltered thought. This is Free Association. Your host, Dennis Barker, brings you the ideas, the questions, and the tangents that matter. Joined by the sharp wit and insight of Karen and the one, the only Dr. Lenny Time. 3 minds, 2 hours, 0 guardrails. Free Association, because the best conversations never stay on topic. Join Dennis, Karen, and Dr. Lenny Time Thursdays at noon Eastern, Studio B, here on Revolution Radio.
Spice expands consciousness. The spice is vital to space travel.
And greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is where the past meets the future, and in here the results are always positive. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us as we endeavor to treat, cure, and prevent the disease of ignorance. This is the voice of the revolution. And we are streaming to you live with our great friends at Revolution Radio on freedomslips.org, the #1 listener-supported network in the entire country. We're also streaming to you live on several video platforms simultaneously. On Rumble and YouTube and Twitch, DLive, Foxhole, Truth Refugee, everywhere where free podcasting can be found. Good and free with no paywalls anywhere. I think Della Meow was the first one in tonight. Bosque Burning, Cromwell is here, Tupac Sugar. Let's see. Boy Dogs 2 is here. Woof Woof. Lyle FWI is here. Let's see. Who else is here? Distant Sight. Way to go. Way to go. Karen Draper. Good, good, good. Okay, who is on Foxhole? Waiting for the screen to change. Give me a second here. I don't see anybody. Okay, well, not many people on Foxhole tonight, but it will fill up. We'll get people in there. I might give it a minute or two. So how has your week been so far? This is not exactly the longest day of the year. A couple days ago was, but it seems pretty long. Like the sun is still up. Like you get sunburned right now in North Carolina, even now. But yeah, this is good. This is good. Sounds good. Flippy 2 is here. Now we can get started. Okay. So I was listening to the Secretary General of the UN. I'm kind of enamored with that position. After you see For All Mankind, the series, if you manage to get all the way through it, it's very hard science fiction drama, but it's a great story. The premise is that the Russians land on the moon first, and so the whole space program is different. Corrupt on levels that just make it super interesting. But, of course, the main thing is that the Secretary General is the ruler of the world in this day. And the population of Earth is 10 billion. Yeah, and we've gone out into space. And it is the competition between all of the major superpowers to get to Mars and to establish a Mars colony, and then all the politics that goes with that. So it's very, very cool series. If you get a chance to see it, you should watch the whole thing. You can't binge it. It will kill you. It'll take you a couple of weeks to get through it all, even if you binge it. But very well done. Acting is superb. Science is impeccable. But the Secretary General is kind of a how do I want to put it? A fantasy job. Okay, it's a fantasy job. It was created, in the middle of the last century, and they kind of always have thought they were powerful, and they're not. But Secretary General Antonio Gutierrez has kind of given up his, let's just call it his delusions of the WHO, the World Health Organization, which is a UN subset, not really a terrorist organization, but an organization that is designed to take over the world. It tried it during COVID and it didn't make it. And so the power just isn't there. So rather than say it's the flu, stupid, and we're all going to die unless you give all your money to the UN, that kind of died out, and now we're not really buying it anymore. So they've kind of gone back to global warming. No, it's not global warming. Okay, it's global. No, it's not global cooling. It's climate change. It's climate change. In all languages, it's climate change. And he has now made a call for a massive increase in global climate spending, as if man had anything to do with climate or could do anything about climate. But we need more money, definitely need more money. He argued that governments and financial institutions must devote significantly more resources to addressing climate-related challenges. We're talking about $1.4 trillion a year, and they're coming after us to get it. Now, they're not going to get it. As long as Trump is in power, this is a big joke. This is a Saturday Night Live episode. This is a TV drama. It's just not going to go anywhere. It's make-believe. Trump has actually pulled money from the UN, and the UN, of course, has their building in New York, but other than the buffet, which is absolutely top drawer, if you ever get a chance to go to the UN, go during lunch. The buffet is the best in New York. I swear to God, it's like 35-star chefs, little roll around carts with the chef's hat, and they're carving off meat, and it's amazing. But it's just a big glut for gluttony, okay, for world leaders who are corrupt, who self-appoint themselves. They're not elected by the people. They self-appoint themselves, and they take all the money that goes to that country, whether it's Zimbabwe or Nigeria or any of the other third world countries. They self-appoint themselves. All the money that goes to those countries out of feel-good budgets all over the world, 98% of it goes to these guys. And they, of course, buy the best clothes, eat the best food, fly the private jets, take 3 baths a day, have all the whores that they can possibly imagine. And they don't do anything. They can't do anything. They can vote and vote and vote and vote and vote, and it makes no difference because there are 5 countries that have veto power. Okay? Their goal is to take over the world, but they're never going to be able to do it. Why? Because the United States, President Trump, has cut off their budget. And so the only thing they can do is say, well, okay, so it's a global drought. No, it's a global cooling. No, it's global warming. Okay, it's climate change. The climate is changing. Hell yes, it's changing. But we have nothing to do that. What do you think we are, terraformers? We're not. We have nothing to do with that. The planet does its own thing, and we have to adapt. But in a special address, which was a couple days ago, at the London Climate Action Week. Now, why would you think it would be in London? Okay, why wasn't it in Mumbai? Why wasn't it in Tokyo or Singapore? Why wasn't it in New York? No. It's in London because the British are the ones that launder all of this money. The British are the ones that deindustrialized the United States over the last 50 years and tried to break us again. They tried again. They tried in 1776. They lost. They tried in 1812. They lost. They tried during World War II. They lost. And the Civil War, they lost. So I'm just telling you, this is their effort to try to drain all the money they can out of the United States, launder it in order to make the crown all powerful. So the special address happens at the London Climate Action Week. Now, if you'd have had something that title 30 years ago, they would have laughed you out of the place. They would have laughed you out of the place. If you tried to do it in 2019, they would have laughed you out of the place because they were busy. They were busy with COVID. They were busy trying to take over the world with the flu. They repurposed the flu in order to take over the world. It didn't work. And a lot of people ended up dying in their effort, and hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of middle-class businesses all over the world were destroyed, but they didn't care. They didn't care because what they wanted was the money. So anyway, they have this London Climate Action Week. And so Monday, Guterres said that governments must invest more heavily in climate-related initiatives. And here come the statistics. Are you ready for this? Now, I'm a statistician, and nothing peeves me worse than bad statistics. But here we go. Are you ready? Africa is home to 60% of the world's best solar resources, 30% of critical materials, 1/5 of humanity, and yet it receives just 2% of, yes, global clean energy investment. At the same time, more than 600 million Africans still lack access to electricity, and this is unjust and a lost opportunity for Africa and the world. Why do Americans have electricity? Why do we have reliable electricity that we almost take for granted? Why is that? Because we built it. Because we built it. Hang on a second. I'm going to log back into. There we go. Now we're back in. Because we built it. Because we built the TVA. Now, we didn't always have electricity. Back in the day, there wasn't electricity in the South because our population was rather sparse. And so the government, Eisenhower on, decided that we have to have electrical infrastructure in our country. So we're going to invest in our own country, and we're going to build power stations where there aren't any, because we believe that if we build it, they will come. If we build it near Nashville, they will come. If we expand the Tennessee Valley Authority and provide electricity to rural areas, they will come. And come they did. And that's why America has electricity everywhere. Other countries haven't done that. Why? We sent them plenty of money to do it. China sent them money. We sent them money. Russia sent them money. Europe sent them. Why didn't they do it? I already told you, 98% of that money went right in the back pockets of the despots who run that country, and they didn't lay a single wire. They didn't dig a single well. They didn't pave a single road, didn't build a single bridge. All that money went into their pockets, and they made themselves filthy rich, and they surrounded themselves with whores and drugs, and they traveled the world in the finest linens and bragged about how powerful they were, while their people lived in squalor. And guess what? Here we are, 2026, and Guterres is making a speech that 600 million Africans don't have electricity. It's 2026. Good Lord. Developed countries must keep their promises, including support to the Fund for Responding to Loss and Damage and the Green Climate Fund. They're not going to do it. You know, they almost burned France to the ground over this. They're still burning Ireland over this. We're not putting up with it. We tossed out an entire government. If you look at what happened in the EU, in the European Union, over the last 4 days, Labor, which is the organization that has been shutting down farmers, building wind farms, solar farms, shutting down coal-fired plants, shutting off natural gas plants. People are cold, they're hungry, they don't have fertilizer, they don't have food. Europe has gone back probably 150 years in progress because of labor. People voted labor since 1922, just after World War I. They never, ever voted anything but labor, except this week. This week, over 1,000 politicians were thrown out of office. You know what that is? That's a revolution. You know why that happened? Because of America Free Radio and stations just like this. We told you the truth. We cured the disease of ignorance, and people woke the hell up. And they realized that the green scam is just a scam to make the leadership wealthy at the expense of the people. But it's the responsibility of developed countries to keep forking that money in there. The $300 billion pledged to developing countries must be delivered with concrete steps to mobilize the $1.3 trillion a year By when? By when? By 2035. By 2035. 9 years they want to raise this money. In a world of shrinking aid, yeah, no shit, because U.S. aid was closed. We must also unleash the catalytic role of multilateral development banks and the wider development finance system to plunge these third world countries so far into debt they will never escape. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? That's the way it's always been done. That's the way it was done in South America until they finally woke up. Guterres further argued that international lenders should play a larger role in financing infrastructure and climate-related projects around the world. The issue is this is all debt-related. And you know what happens when countries can't repay their debt? It's repo time. They take over these countries by using debt. Recent reforms and policy decisions have increased the lending capacity of multilateral development banks by 600 to 800 billion US dollars. They must use it not to build more companies, not to hire people, not to make free enterprise go forward. They must use it to aggressively finance the infrastructure of the future and climate adaptation. Climate adaptation. What does that mean? They don't have a clue. They do not have a clue. They must also adapt their instruments to match the scale and time frame of the challenge, including a 50-year finance where needed. Why? Because they're not going to be able to make the payments. It's sort of like you taking out a student loan and they do give you 30 years to pay it back. Yeah, it's true. People that get it, let's say a civil engineering degree will cost you about $200,000. Well, let's think about that for a second. $200,000, that's about the price of a house. So if you take a $200,000 house and you finance it at what we call adjustable rates, because that's what all student loans are, they're all adjustable rate mortgages. And the rates go up to, let's say, 8.5%, 9%. You can pay and you can pay and you can pay for 20 years and you won't budget. You will not reduce the debt at all. People have paid on a $50,000 student loan. They've paid for 20 years and they still owe $40,000. Why? It's because of the adjustable rate interest. That's exactly what they do to countries. They plunge them so far into debt that they could pay for generations. We're talking generations paying the debt, and it doesn't move. What does it do? It makes the banks rich. They suck that money out of those countries that are desperate for any kind of leg up, and they just make the banks rich. Where are the banks? Where are the banks? Well, the banks aren't in Nigeria. The banks aren't in South Africa. The banks aren't in Zimbabwe. The banks are in China. The banks are in London. The banks are in New York. They're the ones getting rich off these poor countries. But why? But why? Because the climate's changing, you idiot. You see what I'm saying? So the scam just keeps on going. It just changes mantra a little bit and it just keeps on going. Don't fall for this. Don't fall for this. Is Mitch McConnell still alive? Technically, yes. That's about the most qualified answer that I can give. Okay? And I'll just give you another example. This doesn't happen just with countries. This doesn't just happen with South Africa, which actually used to be a second world country. Really, it was on its way. It was on its way, second world. They actually had paved roads. Okay? It wasn't all like Johannesburg's or Sun City. But the corruption was so deep and so broad and so wide, nobody could get around it. And now South Africa is a third world country again. Why? Because the leadership leached all the money out of the system, the money that was supposed to build roads and schools and hospitals and bring some of the people that were educated in the United States back to South Africa so they could actually use their education to make the country better. But what happens? What happens? We drain the best of the best using H-1B visas. We drain it out of those countries. We bring them here to make our country great, but we don't send them back to South Africa to make their country great. Every time somebody gets smart, every time somebody gets straight A's or invents something, we suck them out of that country and bring them here. We don't let them build South Africa. And so South Africa is right back where it was. Worse. All right. Yeah, Tupac says he's still alive, but they have to shoot him up with adrenochrome every couple of months. Yeah, I don't know if that even works anymore. I mean, you get to a certain point where your mind is just gone and your body just can't keep up with that anymore. All right, so that also happens on a state level, by the way, on a state level. Like here in North Carolina, I'm really amazed by this state because, it has about 14 and a half million people in it. It's grown a lot, and the best of the people that have come to North Carolina because they ran away from Washington and Oregon, they ran away from New York and Maine, and they ran away from California, and they came here. The exodus, the mass migration that's taken place in the United States, leaving these big giant blue cities. There really only been 4 states that have benefited from that, okay? Tennessee, of course, no income tax. North Carolina, Florida, and Texas. Some South Carolina, but South Carolina has very hot weather and their economy just isn't there yet. They're a smaller state than North Carolina. Of course, they've poured a lot of money into factories in the last 2 decades. Still, they're not the same state. They're just not coming up. I mean, this is the state where Lindsey Graham came from. So enough said, okay? Right? Yeah. And Nikki Haley. Yeah, that's right. So what blows my mind about North Carolina is even though we have a supermajority of Republicans in the House and the Senate on a state level, and we have almost all Republican congressmen in Washington, and we have Republican senators in Washington, we have and continue to have Democrat governors. And the Democrat governors are so corrupt. Take our last governor, Crooked Roy Cooper. We have no idea how he got elected. One of my friends, it was Pat McCrory, was governor, worked his way up to it, was mayor of Charlotte for a while. Hardworking guy, very smart guy, lots of integrity. Somehow, in his second term, Roy Cooper beat him out by 30,000 votes, and he refused to ask for a recount. So as soon as Roy Cooper got in, things began to go wonky, like even on a city level. Mayor Vi got elected in Charlotte. Her magistrates are the most corrupt you could ever imagine. They've been pumping killers and rapists and robbers out on the street as fast as they could get them. And this turned Charlotte into a very, very dangerous city. I remember seeing a billboard proposal that said, "Welcome to Charlotte. We hope you don't die." Seriously, it's that bad. Well, it turns out a North Carolina auditor has now reported what we have known since the first day he was elected. They found tens of millions of dollars in fraudulent unemployment payments that were made through North Carolina's unemployment system during Roy Cooper's administration and in the months after he left office. Of course, now we have Josh Stein, another Democrat, just as freaking corrupt as Roy Cooper. No, we don't know how he got elected. I never even heard of Josh Stein. Nobody in Charlotte even knows who the guy is. And Charlotte is the most vibrant city in the entire state. How did he get elected? No clue. A fraction of the money recovered only a fraction of the money has been recovered as Cooper runs for U.S. Senate against Republican Michael Whatley. And there are a couple other Republicans, but Whatley won the primary, so this is the way it's going to go. And I like Michael. He's a good guy. I don't think he has a chance of snowball in hell, but we'll see what happens because Roy Cooper has this Senate race so corrupt, so paid for on so many levels. I don't know if Whatley will be able to beat him. And of course, before him, we had the corrupt senator that we have right now, who I regret to say I helped get elected. I had a big fundraiser for him at my plant. He wasn't the senator. Came to my plant. Governor was here. Undersecretary of the UN of the EPA was here, and Tom Tillis got great publicity out of it, and we endorsed him, and he got elected. And ever since that day, I've regretted it. Now I actually put my name in to run against him. My campaign manager said, "Well, I hope you have $1 million to get started because Tom Tillis is going to get reelected. The GOP really likes him." I said, "No, they don't. And I can tell you right now, if you don't know what I know, then you need to come up to speed, bro, because Tom Tillis is going to drop out of the race." They said, "Oh, you're crazy. It's never going to happen." Well, it did happen. Of course, I dropped out before he did. The point is that Tom Tillis was a shoo-in. He was going to win, but he was so corrupt that he was going down. He was going down because we were exposing him. So Whatley is a good guy. I hope that he beats Roy Cooper for senator. Anyway, only $12.1 million was recovered of the $47.2 million in fraudulent payments. By the way, that's the kind of money you need to run a really good campaign. The audit also said the improper unemployment insurance payment rate averaged 22%, more than double the federal 10% threshold and higher than the 18% rate found in the previous audit. The report says, now here's the gist of the corruption here. And let me tell you, the governor knew all about this. The report says improper payments, including any payments to an ineligible recipient. Now, these aren't people that are working and getting unemployment. These aren't people that quit their job and went and got unemployment anyway. These are illegals. These are non-citizens pulling this money out of the system. All right? North Carolina law includes as ineligible an illegal alien who is not in satisfactory immigration status under the laws administered by the United States Department of Justice. The state auditor said Cooper failed to fix the problem, quote unquote. And this was concerning. Cooper's Division of Employment Security also applied for and received $6.8 million federal grant to address the overpayment issues. But guess what? They took 3 years to implement a work search repository, and DES refused to identify a specific root cause for delayed implementation. They just took the money. And that's what Roy Cooper's using to run for Senate. So the report comes as Cooper's running for the Senate. Of course, Cooper required attendees at a May 14th campaign event to show ID matching the RSVP list, even as he opposed the Save America Act, which would require ID to vote in federal elections. He also vetoed under ID legislation as governor after a statewide referendum. And by the way, we amended our state constitution. Yeah, we actually ratified a state amendment to our state constitution that required photo ID to vote. And Cooper vetoed the voter ID legislation as governor after a statewide referendum backed the policy. And he argued at the time that the measure would create barriers and suppress the rights of minority, poor, and elderly voters, of which Charlotte is about 60% minority. As governor, Cooper's administration released roughly 3,500 inmates. Many of them turned right around and murdered and raped and robbed repeatedly, and they're still on the streets. After legal action from the ACLU and NAACP, North Carolina's, and we still have that problem. DeCarlo Brown knifed Irina Zarutska in the neck 3 times and killed her on a train on camera. Mayor Vai, who is the corrupt minority mayor that we had at the time, suppressed that film. She refused to let the transit authority let that film out. Why? Because she was running for her 4th term and she didn't want that film out there to discredit her. Well, we got a hold of it. America Free Radio got a hold of that transit film and we pumped it out as hard as we could. She still won because it came out just a little too close to the election, but we forced her to resign. We forced her to resign. She's been in office less than a year of her 4th term, and we forced her to resign. At the end of this month, Mayor Vai is gone. She's gone. So we do have a voice out here. New York Post reported that more than 600 of these 3,500 inmates repeatedly committed serious felonies, 18 charged with murder. Republican Senate candidate Michael Whatley argued that Cooper owes North Carolinians an explanation for the releases, but you're never going to get it. That's the problem. So these corruptions that we're talking about on a global scale with the UN forcing hundreds of billions, we're talking $1.3 trillion a year, hundreds of billions of dollars into these 3rd world countries to support their puppet masters, keep the people suppressed, launder the money back around to fascists and communists and Muslims to get elected all over the world. That's what the money's being used for. You wonder where these Muslims get their money to run for office? You wonder where these corrupt people get the budgets to run their campaigns and to sue their political opponents into bankruptcy? It comes from this money. It comes from this money. You remember something called the World Wildlife Fund? It was called WWF. It had it was either a panda or a lion, or maybe it was the elephant. I can't remember as the logo. That whole thing funded terrorist organizations. It was a total terrorist front. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about here. It blows my mind how stupid people are, and we try our very best to, of course, cure the disease of ignorance and let you know what's going on. So that's what's going on in North Carolina. The same thing is probably going on in your state. By the way, I paid $3.11 a gallon for gas. $3.11 a gallon for gas this week. I make a prediction. By July 4th, we're going to be in the 2s. I don't know what gas is in your state, but I venture to say it's come down 75 cents in the last 2 to 3 weeks. And oil just went to $71 a barrel. $71 a barrel. And ships are going through the Strait of Hormuz as fast as they can get there. Oh, did I call it the Strait of Hormuz? I meant Schrodinger's Strait. Schrodinger's Strait. You know, Schrodinger's cat was neither alive nor dead, or it was both alive and dead in the box. That was the quantum state. Of course, once you observe the cat as being alive or dead, well, it collapses into particle form, and there you are. But until it's observed, it's both states. So that's why we call it Schrodinger's Strait, because it's both opened and closed at the same time. Oh, what is it, Flippy 2? You said except for California. It didn't go down? Where is that, Deborah? $3.23 a gallon. Where is that? Oh, and JJ Nevada says my gas prices haven't moved in a month. It's your state. It's your state. Because North Carolina, it's $3.11 a gallon. It's going to be $2.95, I'll guarantee, in the next 2 weeks. Yeah. Well, that's why I call it Schrodinger's Strait, because it's both open and closed at the same time. Anyway, 3 stranded tankers this week carrying 5 million barrels of crude oil were exiting the strait today, with 2 heading to Asia as the interim deal between Iran and the U.S. unlocks more supply stuck in the Gulf, and that is bringing down global prices. South Korean flagged VL Breeze, a very large crude carrier carrying 2 million barrels of Qatari condensate and Abu Dhabi crude. Just looking at my text message just came in. Passed the strait and is heading to Daesan from LCEG and Kepler. These are tracking services that tell us what ships are on the water. The supertanker is chartered by South Korean refiner Hyundai Oil Bank. VLCC Plata carrier, chartered by Indian Oil Corp, is headed out of the strait with 2 million barrels of Saudi crude alongside Suez Max tanker Prudent Warrior, which is heading for Sohar, Oman, with 1 million barrels of Iraqi Basra crude. Both are sailing under the Liberian flag. Hyundai Oil Bank and IOC could not be immediately reached for comment, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. South Korean's maritime ministry said on Wednesday that 4 vessels operated by South Korean shippers had exited the strait and were sailing to their destinations unfettered. No mines, no drones, no missiles, and no tolls paid. 18 of the 26 vessels that have been stranded since the start of the Middle East conflict remain in the Gulf. I guarantee you they're going to be lifting anchor pretty soon. They were looking up to see if the South Korean ship made it through. Yeah, they made it through. Pick up the phone, call the boss, see if we can get the hell out of here. You watch. It was not immediately clear whether the ships were sailing along the temporary maritime corridors established by Oman and the International Maritime Organization to help ships leave the area safely. They kind of have it mapped out. No mines here. You can come on through. Oman said it would keep the Strait of Hormuz open to shipping without imposing any tolls, having designated 2 temporary routes north and south of the existing shipping lane to facilitate the safe passage of vessels departing the region. Give it a couple of weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks, you're going to see all these ships stuck in the Persian Gulf heading out. The 2 empty liquefied natural gas tankers, Shandong Redwood and Milaha Qatar, were the latest to be seen west of the strait to load cargoes from Qatar. This brings the known empty liquid natural gas ships transiting through the strait to load at Qatar to 9, the largest number since the war began. Qatar's Prime Minister, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani, said the Gulf state would resume normal energy production within a couple of weeks. This is going to drive prices down because supply is going to flow again. No. The demand doesn't change. The demand does not change. Trust me, I've been in the transportation business a long, long time, since the last century. And we have predictions by the Department of Transportation, which does extensive research on all states, all manner of vehicles. And the usage of fuel is flat for the next 20 years. No increase in the amount of fuel. Fuel efficiency goes up. The number of vehicles goes up. The usage stays flat. Demand doesn't change. Only the supply. There are 1,150 cargo-carrying ships with an estimated vessel and freight value of $125 billion, and as many as 20,000 seafarers are waiting to resume operations in the Gulf after this unpleasantness has ended. Even if the U.S. and Iran agreement holds and the Strait of Hormuz is reopened properly, solid assurances of safe passage will be required by the insurance companies because there is a terror premium that is charged by Lloyd's of London. Oh, where's Lloyd's of London? in Britain, in the UK, again. We're talking about trillions of dollars, not billions, trillions of dollars in insurance premiums that Lloyd's of London is collecting for what? For nothing. For nothing. For a perceived risk called a terror premium. A terror premium. And the ships have to pay it. The ships have to pay it or they can't move. It's sort of like driving without insurance. Well, I'll just go drive anyway. No, you won't. No, you won't. The company's not going to let you drive that truck without insurance. Hell no. We got to have insurance first. Well, why don't we go? Because the insurance premiums are too high. So that's why everything's stuck. It isn't because the captain doesn't want to go. It isn't because the customers are saying, damn it, where is my stuff? It isn't that. It isn't because the sellers don't want to get paid by the customers who got all that stuff on a container ship in the first place. They want to be paid too. It isn't that. It isn't the demand. It isn't the supply. It's the insurance companies that are keeping everything locked down. Again, the British. Again, the British. The real issue for the ship owners has been more about the risk. It's the risk. Oh, the risk to the crew, the risk to the ship, the risk to the cargo. Bullshit. It's about the insurance costs. For the 1,150 vessels, Alliance counted vessels with a gross tonnage over 100 gigatons. According to the estimate, cargo with a volume of 29 million GT, gross tons, is awaiting passage through the strait. The United Nations Shipping Agency said yesterday that an evacuation plan to enable hundreds of ships with some 11,000 seafarers stranded in the Gulf is underway. It's underway. But now you know where all the money is. Now you know who's really in charge of keeping the tension high in the Strait of Hormuz. It isn't Iran. It isn't the IRGC. They're making dick from this. It's the insurance companies. All right, last, 3 months or so, I've been talking about the election infrastructure in the United States. Oh, Washington State, Mist in the Mountain is saying Washington State averages $5.30 per gallon for regular unleaded. Holy shit, people. Della Meow says our gas went up this week. It's $3.85 in Jacksonville, Florida. I don't know what's up with you guys. Your states need to be called to task. Cali regular actually down from $5.59 to $5.29. Well, that's down from what was it, $7.60 last winter? Holy crap. You guys. I know. It's just insane. I got a conference out at Mount Shasta. By the way, I'll make an ad about that when we take a break in a few minutes. I got to rent a car. Had to fly. Had to get a hotel. You know, it used to be when I go out there for a conference, it would cost me about $2,000, $1,850 to $2,000 to speak at a conference. Guess what it is this time? $3,000. $3,000. Like, I can't carry enough books in my luggage to make $3,000 back. It just ain't gonna happen. You might make $200 back. But I go because the organizer is a good friend of mine, Jonathan Shalawar. He's a great guy. I've known him for 25 years. It's a great conference. I'm going because the people are great and I really enjoy speaking and I want to do it. Is it worth $3,000 to me? Yes, because they're my friends. Would I do it 6 more times, 7 more times this year? Hell no. That's why you don't see me out there speaking on the tour, because I can't afford it. I can't afford it. I'm not consulting full time now, and I'm not making the kind of money I was making when I was working full time, and I can't do it. I can't spend $30,000 a year on conferences. Just don't have the money. So I don't go. So I sit here and talk to you on a podcast, which costs me nothing, right? Yeah. All right, let's talk a little bit about this election infrastructure, because what I said was going to happen, and I don't know where I made the prediction first. I think it was on Awake Nation about 2.5 months ago. This is before the Save America Act had been crafted. It was in the works, and we were talking about the points of it in politics for a while, that mail-in ballots were a problem, that we need to have ID to vote, we need to have ID to register, we needed to purge the rolls of dead people and duplicates and illegals. And 21 states have responded to that and said, yeah, fine, no problem. 29 states have said, we're not doing that. 2 of the states sued the federal government for as much as they could get out of them, California and New York, just for asking about their voter rolls. Michigan, they purged, I think, 325,000 dead people off their rolls. But then a judge turned right around and forced the state to put the 325,000 dead people back on the voter rolls. So I don't know where that's going. But the issue is that the Democrats have been stealing elections openly since 2008, and with all vigor, all no holds barred since 2018. Yeah, seriously. And foreign countries have been involved in it: China, Venezuela, Romania, and Ukraine. So I made a prediction that President Trump was going to pass an executive order that declared a national state of emergency for national security reasons to secure the election infrastructure that had been attacked by a foreign adversary. That's what I said. And I said the title of it will be something like the Emergency Election Infrastructure Act, and it would ban all mail-in ballots and require photo ID to vote and to register to vote. So President Trump is escalating this fight along the lines that I've been talking about for about 2.5 months. Given the evidence of election fraud that has occurred in recent votes, and we're not talking about a small amount, it's a huge amount, and it's on so many levels, it boggles the mind. It actually blows the mind. He is demanding passage of the Save America Act, and he's taking actions to hold the Senate hostage until that is done. Now, they have enough votes to pass it. If it was a simple majority, they have 51, 52 votes, they could pass it. But the Democrats are requiring a filibuster, and it's not an ordinary filibuster. It's not a standing filibuster where they stand there and talk and talk and talk and talk and then have the vote. It's an implied filibuster. And what that basically means is without 60 votes, you ain't passing this son of a bitch. You're not passing. You don't reach cloture, you can't pass. Well, that's not the way it's written. That's not the way the Constitution, that's not the way the Senate rules work. And they're violating this. John Thune is violating this. Now, we don't want to do away with the filibuster. We don't need to. We just need to set the rules of the filibuster that it's a talking filibuster, not a standing zombie filibuster. But given the evidence of election fraud that has occurred in recent votes, he is demanding passage of the Save America Act, which would verify that only U.S. citizens are voting in national elections. The Democrats just cannot allow this to happen. And the uniparty, okay, let's just call it the uniparty. The plan has been the target of unjustified and inaccurate attacks from Democrats and other leftists who also have advocated essentially for open borders and open elections in America. By open elections, I mean illegals voting in American elections. So today, President Trump said this: today's housing news conference and signing is hereby canceled. It's canceled until such time as we pass the desperately needed Save America Act, which I consider to be, and listen to the words very closely, capital N, capital E, national emergency. Thank you for attention to this matter. So a report said the U.S. House just voted hours earlier, 358 to 32, for a housing package aimed at lowering costs for homeowners and home buyers by increasing housing supply. I don't really know how they're going to do that, but I guess they could just wave a magic wand and more houses suddenly appear. Is passing the Save America Act a national emergency, as Trump says? No. People should not need proof of ID and citizenship to vote. No. Trump is just bloviating as usual. No. Yes. Yes. And Republicans need to terminate the Senate filibuster because the Democrats will end it as soon as they're in power. Yes, if it's not passed, America is doomed for destruction under permanent Democrat tyranny. So this is the confusion that's kind of going on. And it depends on what news actor you listen to. But the plan that they just voted on is called the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. Earlier gained Senate approval by 85-5. But Trump is calling it a national emergency and demanding the SAVE Act plan, which would require proof of ID and citizenship to vote. And it would also ban mail-in ballots. Ban mail-in ballots. So Pocahontas, which is of minor importance compared to the lower interest rates, and even FISA, pales in comparison to passing the Save America Act. This is what Americans, both Democrats, Republicans, and everyone else care about. 87% of the country, both Democrat and Republican, want IDs to vote. They don't want illegals voting. Not the elected Democrats. I'm talking about Democrat voters. They don't want illegals voting. Get the bad Republicans to approve it, or better yet, terminate the filibuster and approve it. I don't think they need to terminate the filibuster. They need to go back to the original rules of the filibuster, which is you stand here and you flap your jaws until you can't flap anymore, and then you sit the hell down and shut the hell up, and we have a vote. And that's how it's done. That's how it's done. It's called a talking filibuster. He said, we have to pass the Save America Act, which is voter ID, which is proof of citizenship. We have to pass it. So we're going to have to talk about that and many other things. So Chip Roy, who sometimes I like and sometimes I don't, pointed out the housing plan contains big government garbage and spending, including a $200 million affordable housing pilot program to incentivize dense subsidized affordable housing units. In other words, apartments. Apartments. Not owning, just renting. And another critic, Kevin Roberts, president of the Heritage Foundation, said Republicans must fight both the Save America Act and a reconciliation bill, including this policy priorities. So I'm telling you that the Emergency Election Infrastructure Act will pass, or it will be in the form of an executive order. And it's going to come quick. Under the auspices of a national emergency declared by the president for national security purposes. And he's going to release the evidence that our election infrastructure has been attacked by foreign adversaries, and that's why we have to seize control of it. We have to do it now. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. Please don't go away. More America Free Radio right after this.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
to the Family Industrial Complex podcast here on Revolution Radio, Studio B, every Wednesday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time.
I'm on break right now. What's that?
Empowered physically,
Do I know what?
mentally, and spiritually.
Yes, it's real.
It's real? It's real?
Yeah.
She moved something. She moved something. I made a paper twitch.
Oh, did you really? That's cool.
If you saw me down there, I was just standing there.
The rooster has crowed out the opening bars of a new day. You've dragged yourself out of bed.
Commercial break right
you
now.
turn on your device.
But I'll be
you want to know what's
hour.
going on in the world.
I'll be happy to show you something.
You're hungry for a topical show that serves up those breakfast headlines just that little bit differently. Do you like your early morning news the way you like your eggs over easy? Served with slathers of salsa-like sass? Do you like those first headlines of the day to deliver a punch as powerful as that first cup of joe? Join Mitchell Bupp at his breakfast table for Revolution in the Morning, where he will digest, dissect, and dismantle those new day's national and global news headlines with razor-sharp relish. Find Mitchell here at revolution.radio every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on Studio B.
Through everything, we have to remember that we have more in common than not in common. And to find this common ground, tune in to Conversations with Eagle Flower, Wednesdays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio A. Because we come to this table of life to learn in the best possible way and experience this gift of life from our mutual creator. So let's learn together and build our best future with Conversations with Eagle Flower, Wednesdays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Studio A on Revolution Radio.
I will defend myself against their tyranny. Number 3 is my radio broadcast. I'm squarely in front of the public all the time, and they all know what's going on.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence.
Hello, my name is John Wayne, and I do a broadcast here at freedomslips.com, revolution.radio, called The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
Freedom and fear are at war.
And folks, I assure you, we are in Defense Commission 1 as we journey perilously through this paradigm that we currently reside in. And I ask that you join me every Saturday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
We'll never surrender.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at buyer risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Thanks for hanging in there while we took that short break. Now back to America Free Radio with host Brooks Agnew here at Revolution Radio.
Oh, we love it. We love the Revolution Radio station identification. You do a great job for us. Thank you. Thank you guys so much, Willow and the group down there. You do a great job. Tight board. We stream out through TalkStream Live and iHeartRadio and TuneIn Radio and Orange Radio and all those radio apps out there. People are listening while they're driving, while they're working on their favorite projects, and we would be nowhere without you guys. 4 million strong all over the world, and we appreciate you more than you will know. But if you're listening by audio, pay close attention, because what we're going to do is go to my website, which is brooksagnew.com, very easy to do. We're going to click on this link for those of you watching by video. And we're going to go to my website. You'll know you're in the right place because it says, I'm Brooks Agnew. There's my picture. It doesn't get any easier than that. Couple new things today. First of all, remember the 2 blue buttons, but I want to share with you about this event that's going to happen in Mount Shasta in July. It's called The Calling. It is one of the top spiritual events this summer. If you're anywhere out there in California or the West, Arizona, Sedona, wherever you want to get to this event, because the best speakers on the planet are going to be at this. Myself, Sasha Stone, the best of the best are going to be here. And it's very easy to do. All you have to do is click the Get Tickets Now button. It's going to take you straight to the site where you can buy tickets and get there on your own. Okay, so I'll see you out there. It's 5 days long. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be amazing. But what we're going to do right now is click on the blue button that says Ivan, Roxy, Feban, Medben, Meben, and hydroxychloroquine with no prescription. That's going to take you to a special page inside my website where you can get products for yourself that you have been looking for. Everybody wants these. Everybody knows what they do. I just got more amazing mail today. It just blows my mind how effective this stuff is. Stage 4 prostate cancer, completely in remission. Completely in remission. Yeah, and I'm talking to his wife, not him, so it's pretty crazy. So this is where you get it at wholesale prices, and I've already got an 8% discount on this, less than $1 a tablet. I could lower the price 20%. I could lower the price 20% if the FDA and HHS would quit violating federal law by using their muscle to force U.S. Customs to seize and destroy my imports. I could lower the price 20%. The law of the land is the TRI Act, the 2017 TRI Act. You are entitled to buy whatever you want to cure yourself. You have the right to try anything. It's federal law, signed by Congress, signed by the president. But the FDA and HHS are violating that law by forcing U.S. Customs to seize and destroy these shipments. It has to stop. Anybody out there that has any influence whatsoever with their congressman, their senator, RFK Jr., although I think he's in fear for his life right now, something has to be done. We've got to be able to continue to save lives. It means so much. If you can't do that, can you at least pray? Can you at least pray that they will not see these imports when they come in? Stop destroying the shipments so that we can get these to people and save their lives. As far as fenbendazole and hydroxychloroquine, we can get these to you within 4 days. If you order tonight, you will have it by Saturday. Nobody in the world can deliver you faster than us. Nobody in the world can beat our prices. I'm trying to get it to you at wholesale with no prescription in 4 days or less. And once we work through this mess with U.S. Customs, we're going to be back to 4-day delivery for the Ivan and the Meben as well. Trust me, all the orders will go out, 100% guaranteed. We deliver every single order. We don't miss any. If you want a refund, I'll happily refund your money. But I promise you, you're going to get your product. All right, let's get back to it because we got stuff we have to talk about, and it's important. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay. What is that, Flippy? Don't care if I get $19 on my EBT. The card qualifies you for other things. Oh, I didn't even know that. I don't know. I've seen all the cheerleaders and the dancers on the cruise ships, the EBT shuffle. Yeah, you have to weigh at least 305 pounds to join the dance team. And that's where it comes from, the EBT shuffle. And don't worry. A federal judge has stepped forward and said, sorry, the USDA can't ban you from buying Snicker bars, popcorn, and sugary sodas. You can go back to doing it. Plenty of Cheetos for you. Plenty of Diet Pepsi to go with those waffles and all that stuff. Right? Yeah. No, you can't join the dance team unless you're at least 305 pounds. That's what I hear anyway. I don't know if you can touch your toes or not. That doesn't matter. It's a gross weight thing. Right. And by the way, thanks you guys over there on Foxhole. You're out there, Vader 369. I think it's up there in Pennsylvania still. And Matt Hat and Possum, thank you guys so much. We appreciate you over there on Foxhole for holding down the fort and representing over there. And thank you on YouTube. Thank you on Rumble. You guys are stacking it and racking it. And you guys over on Twitch and X, you're doing a great job. Share that stuff on X, by the way. We get up to about 100 views live and then maybe a couple hundred with the archives if I pin it to my profile. But it helps if you guys retweet it. All right. So do that. Retweet the program and get it out there. I don't care if you follow me or not. That doesn't matter to me. I don't pay attention to those numbers anymore. Not since I lost my YouTube account that had 25,000 followers. We were going places, but I haven't been above 1,250 in years. So I don't care about the followers. I just care about the knowledge. Just keep sharing it, keep getting it out there, and eventually people will hear the truth. Okay, let's talk about drones. You remember the F-15 fighter pilot, the navigator that was shot down in Iran. You remember that? Yeah. So there was a U.S.-Israeli bombing campaign that happened in Iran back in April. This is back in April, a few months back. And the F-15 pilot got shot down, and President Trump moved heaven and earth, and he went and got that guy. He's like Gene Hackman. He took the helicopters and the jets and everything, and they went in and got him. And it cost us like $2 billion because we had to blow up some aircraft to leave it behind and all that stuff. But some more information has come out about this, and I thought I would share it with you. Because the pilot reported that what he believed he saw amazed him, actually blew his mind. And he reported it to U.S. intelligence officials. And it set off a debate within U.S. intelligence and U.S. intelligence agencies about Iran's drone capabilities. We're not talking about just plain old suicide drones now, okay? The report noted that the pilot had a concussion. He was injured during the incident. And U.S. intelligence officials disagreed on whether he could recount what he saw clearly. Oh, you hit your head, right? I mean, surely you didn't see what you said you saw. But this is what he reported. I'm going to let you decide. The pilot said multiple drones, they were interconnected and they were moving as one, with smaller drones below the bigger drones like legs. Real alien shit, that's what he said. And if Iran is able to control multiple drones in a formation like what the pilot described to take down F-15, which is one of the most sophisticated fighting machines the world has ever known, it means that Iran's drone capabilities are way more advanced than what the U.S. assessed. I do know that the Chinese can operate drone swarms, that swarms of drones can act as one. They can cover for each other. They can sacrifice for one another. They have different capabilities, and the drones do different things. And maybe if you had 250 or 350 drones all acting in sequence with one another, big drones, little drones, fast ones, slow ones, radar jamming drones, rocket shooting drones, suicide drones, maybe you could take down an F-15. But the F-15 pilot recounted the incident, and he was rescued. And this is what he said. And so I'm kind of taking this with a grain of salt, but I believe him. I believe him. So if this is the case, then it's a more complex situation than what we're talking about, than what we have been led to believe. Which kind of is a good segue to the Great Fall of China series that I've been talking about. For about a year and a half now, I've been talking about the Great Fall of China. It's been economic, it's been political, it's been social, it's been on several different levels. We talked about the failure of the Chinese banks. We talked about the utter failure of the Chinese real estate market. And we talked about, and I mention this whenever I'm on the air, and I was on the air with Roger Stone the other day, and I was on the air on Coast to Coast AM with Richard Serrett the other day, and I mentioned the same thing, that China isn't really what you think it is. Okay, the CCP is not China. The Chinese people are a different body politic than the CCP is. The Chinese people want to be free. They're entrepreneurial. They're hardworking. They sacrifice. They're workaholics, just like any other race that's focused on success. And believe me, the Chinese are focused on success. They have a lot of success models in China. In fact, most of the billionaires in the world are Chinese. Seriously. I've sat down and had meetings with Chinese billionaires in China. I understand their stress. I know it's important to them. And it ain't the CCP. It's surviving the CCP. It's being wealthy and enjoying the perks of wealth in spite of the CCP. And whether we're talking Mr. Ma or Mr. On, you know who you are out there, we're talking about the same thing. The CCP is very powerful, and they can end you and end your wealth. If you don't believe me, go ask some businessmen in Hong Kong if what I'm saying is not true. It is true. But the schism, this division that occurs, is between the CCP and the Chinese. Well, the CCP is a minority, a lot like the IRGC, a lot like the Ayatollahs. They control the people through massive drone surveillance and camera surveillance, and they tie that into their social media score, which allows people to ride buses and trains and move about and do investment and own things. And if you don't have a compliant attitude, and by the way, you remember when the COVID thing happened in China, we thought about so many people had died and all this, and we really thought there was like 30 million people died in Chinese. You know why? Because their cell phones were no longer operating. And as it turns out, the Chinese people had multiple cell phones. On one cell phone, they could actually look at forbidden videos. Yeah, they could look at our podcast. They could play, they could gamble. They could visit porn sites. They could do all the things that the CCP forbids on the one phone with the fake ID. And on the other phone, their real phone, that's the one where they have the compliant lifestyle. They're able to get on buses and trains and make investments and be in an apartment and have a job and all that stuff. And so when COVID hit, what happened was they got rid of the extra cell phone. So we actually thought 30 million Chinese had died, but it wasn't. It was 30 million cell phones being destroyed because the CCP was coming for them. The CCP was coming for them. So this schism that we saw happen, as I call the Great Fall of China, is happening around the world. It's happening in Scotland. It's certainly happening in Ireland. I believe it's happening in Iran. We just don't know about it because we don't have internet interaction with Iranian people. We get a few videos out, and that's about it. But the recent news reports indicate that the Chinese amphibious exercises have been ramped up. Why? I mean, in the thousands and thousands of years that China has existed as a nation, all the dynasties, Mings and Qings and Changs, all the dynasties, they've never won a war outside their own borders. They've always fought themselves. They built a wall to keep the hordes out of their country, and they just had the wars among themselves. But now it seems that their amphibious teams are beginning to ramp up, and it's causing increased concern that they might invade Taiwan. Now, why, you're saying to yourself, why would you do that? The Taiwanese consider themselves Chinese. If you ask them, they'll say, yeah, we're Chinese. No problem. Why does the CCP need to invade China? Keep that in mind as I continue. If the Red Chinese, the CCP, decides to invade Taiwan, and if the United States says, not so fast, and both are dependent on the U.S. will to fight, this campaign to thwart Beijing's aggression in the South China Sea has to go on. It has to continue. If we let up, it'll happen. And I've told you over the years, the reason that I don't think this can happen is because the Chinese do not have an amphibious force. They don't have a way to move troops across that 200 miles from mainland China to Taiwan, across open sea, the Sea of China. They could fly over it. Yes, they could fly their jets and bombers and whatever, and whatever anti-aircraft systems the Taiwanese have will deal with that. But you still got to move troops. You still got to get men on the ground in Taiwan. Why? Because you don't want to destroy Taiwan. You don't want to go around there and blow the shit out of it. You want to capture it. You want all the chips. You want the chip factories. You want the chip scientists. You want to capture the country. And that's done with men on the ground. That's done with men on the ground. Well, how do you get men on the ground? Well, I suppose you could fly them over and parachute them down. You know that will never work, right? You know that will never work because the Taiwanese will just wipe them out of the sky with microwaves or whatever. They have the most advanced weaponry the planet has ever known. They have weaponry we haven't even seen yet. They have computers that make our computers look like, pocket calculators. Yeah, and China doesn't have these things. Taiwan has them. Taiwan has invented them. Taiwan is the chip builder. So China wants to capture that. You have to do that with men, and it's going to take a lot of men. 20,000, 30,000 troops, minimum, just minimum. Well, how do you get 30,000 soldiers from mainland China to Taiwan? You have to sail them across the China Sea. And what do they have? They have container ships. Oh, wonderful. Yeah. You're going to take an aluminum ship, has no armor, goes maybe 25 knots. It has no guns. It has no beds. It has no ability to house 5,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 soldiers aboard these container ships. What are you going to do? You're going to convert the ships, and we're going to sail across the China Sea to Taiwan and take that country over. Well, I'm here to tell you that Taiwanese submarines will blow you out of the water. You can chug along at 25 knots, and they can have their calisthenics and their lunch, and then have an afternoon massage, and then sink your ship. You'll never make it. Your ships will be on the bottom of the China Sea in 2 hours. It will never happen. There have been lots and lots and lots of war games analyzing what might happen. And it comes out the same way every single time. China would likely attempt a lightning surprise attack with missiles, drones, aircraft, blah, blah, blah. Yes, of course. But how do you blitzkrieg with the troops? How do you do that? China doesn't have any boats. They don't have cruisers. They don't have the ability to move troops under armor to the battlefield. Never have. Never have. It might have worked for Germany prior to 1941 invasion of the former Soviet Union, or for the Arabs in 1973 in the Yom Kippur War. But if U.S. and allied intelligence agencies use proper overhead sensing and human intelligence assets, we'd have days warning. We would see their troops massing on the shore of the China Sea a week before it happened, because there's nothing. There's no way to hide. And we would have maritime prepositioned ships, aerial reinforcements. The Taiwanese would win in a matter of minutes. A little tiny country, but it's a little tiny country. That's the whole thing. You don't have a 400-mile front that you can flank somebody on. You have one beach. That's it, baby. And everything has to be concentrated right there. And Taiwan only has to control that. At sea, the People's Liberation Army Navy would concentrate on covering the amphibious invasion force, while the Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps aircraft, along with land-based Army long-range hypersonic anti-ship missile forces, disrupt that landing. Like, blow the shit out of it. Meanwhile, U.S. surface combatant ships would operate inside the South China Sea, attempting to degrade the Chinese land-based anti-Navy reconnaissance strike complex. Many of these fires would come from converted oil tankers, container ships intermingled with normal commercial ships, and that would launch missiles and drones from a rocket in a box configuration. And so they could trick us into thinking, oh, they're delivering containers of Nikes to Taiwan, but they're not. They're delivering troops. How hard do you think that would be to find? Huh? Have you ever traveled 200 miles by ocean liner? You ever gone 200 miles? I have. You know how long it takes? Freaking 10 hours. 8 to 10 hours to go 200 miles. There's no surprise, folks. No surprise. That part of the operation would go smoother if we could suppress their mobile anti-ship missile launchers with a grid of small or micro sensors that could track and target the mobile launchers once a missile is fired. We have Growlers, we have P-8s, all of which can disrupt radar. We have space-based weapons that can totally confuse any kind of hypersonic missile coming in. Dropped by drones loitering overhead, these sensors could be seeded into the area soon after a missile is fired. It would then be detected and targeted while on the move. In 1999, the Marine Corps, what's called the Warfighting Lab, they test this a couple times a year, but the Marine Corps Warfighting Lab successfully tracked and targeted a mock-up Scud launcher from Warrenton, Virginia to Quantico. We used surrogates to simulate the sensors because the technology to build the real thing was nascent, but that technology is now mature. The Germans are actively experimenting with such microsensors and are planning to field them to their operational forces. We could piggyback off of their program relatively quickly. U.S. aircraft carriers would loiter outside the South China Sea at a relatively safe distance because they can protect themselves at that distance, with their air groups dispersed, and we've already proven that we can do that because the Iranians shot hundreds and hundreds of missiles at these boats, and not one made it in, not one. They would be dispersed through a variety of allied nations with striking distance of the South China Sea and mainland China. Only when the Chinese recon strike complex has been sufficiently degraded would the carriers even move in closer. They wouldn't need to. The decisive point of the war would not be Taiwan. It would be the key choke points of the South China Sea, the Strait of Hormuz, the Bab of Mandeb on the Red Sea. And there's a combination of attack submarines and Marine Corps task forces that would block oil imports to China and imports going out, which they just got a couple of boats this week from Iran. So that's a big help to China, but it ain't enough. This would likely threaten our economy with collapse and hasten negotiations to end the conflict. And don't forget, the other issue here in this whole equation is the CCP does not have a motivated fighting force. To win outside your country, you have to have 4 things working. Number one, you have to have advanced weaponry. Okay, they have that. Number 2, you have to have logistics. You got to have a way to get your weapons to the battlefield with your soldiers. They don't have that. Number 3, you have to have supply chain. You got to be able to get food, medicine, medical care to your people in the field. The Chinese don't have that. But number 4, and probably the most important, is you have to have a motivated fighting force. Why? Can't they just follow orders? Yeah, but see, here's the issue, Earth Explorers. Once a CCP soldier who is a Chinese person gets outside the country, like they're going to invade America or they're going to invade another country, they're going to defect. They're going to say, I don't want this war. I want a ranch and a wife in Oklahoma. I don't want this war. I want to be a fisherman. I want to be an artist. I want to be an actor. If I die, because there's no women to marry in China, they did that to themselves, by the way, my bloodline ends with me. It's over. I'm the last one. I'm the son of the son of the son, and there was only one in my family, one, because of the one-child policy. And there aren't enough women to marry in China. If I get outside my country, I'm going to defect because I want to live. I want to live, and I want my family line to live. Do you know how important genealogy is to the Chinese people? It's part of their culture. Even as densely populated as some of those areas are in China, and a lot is rural, yes, but a lot is very old. And that genealogy is paramount in their culture. If you go to their houses, they'll have like a banner. I don't know how else to describe it. A parchment, a banner. And it begins at the baseboard of one side of their house. And it goes up the wall, and it goes across the ceiling, and it goes down the other wall to the floor. And you know what it has on it? Their family tree. It has their family tree. Well, in 500 million Chinese households, and there's only 1.2 billion Chinese, in 500 million Chinese households, that tree ends with that man. Because for a few generations, there's only been one sire, one person to carry the name on. They're not going to fight. They're not a motivated fighting force. If they get outside their country to have a war, those Chinese people are not going home. One way or the other, they're going to die or they're going to defect. Now, which do you think they're going to do? Believe me, I've been there. I've been in Nepal. I've been in Tibet. I've seen the Chinese soldiers. I've seen them in the foreign countries. I've met with them. I've, as much as I can, spoken with them, interacted with them. They hate it. They hate the uniform, they hate the gun, they hate the CCP, but they're doing it because they keep getting fed. And if they get an opportunity, they're gone. They're out of there. They're not a motivated fighting force. The China-centric force design program was reduced by the Marine Corps, worldwide readiness in minutes before the Korean War. Worse, independent war games have shown that force design would do little to contribute to a South China Sea conflict. In addition, the Indo-Pacific Command has shown little interest in this game-changing concept. Force design must be abandoned if the Marine Corps is to play a role in any such conflict. The sensors needed to degrade the Chinese recon strike complex have not yet been fielded to general purpose forces. And if the CIA is using them, they ain't telling anybody. If we had this capability in the recent war with Iran, we might have had much more success in degrading its ballistic missile program. And finally, the rocket-in-a-box complex has been seriously considered, but not yet implemented. It would be a cheap and quick way to build up naval power until the Trump administration's determination to fix our nation's shipbuilding and maintenance programs is realized. Replacing the missiles and drones used on Iran has been discussed in detail in this publication. I am convinced, this is the writer saying, I'm convinced that if we make it clear that we could destroy their economy, not just their navy, in any Sino-American conflict, the Chinese would have second thoughts about any adventurism in the South China Sea. Such a war would destroy China. We are energy independent and have alternative export markets that they would be denied. Such an announced strategic intent would be as much a deterrent as a war-fighting strategy. And it's true. And you have to consider that Mr. Xi came from the countryside, and he's very, I will say, spiritually aware. Maybe not a spiritual man per se, but he's very spiritually aware. And Chinese prophecy is known by him, it's respected by him, and it's been studied by him. And there is a book called the Tube Tu. And the Tube Tu has a series of plates. And on plate number 46, Mr. Xi likens this plate to his dynasty. And it predicts the end of his dynasty. And it's going to be brought down by a man with clenched fists. And if you look at the drawing of the man, of course, it's Chinese on the plate, it looks like Donald Trump doing his little fist dance that he does, clenching his fists and kind of rocking back and forth with a stern look on his face. Mr. Xi is aware of that. And he doesn't want an end to his dynasty. He doesn't want that to occur. He does not want to fight because he knows he will lose. So what is he doing? He's joining with Trump. He figures that if he joins with Trump and allies with him and works with him to build the Chinese economy, his dynasty won't fail. He'll cheat the 46th plate. We shall see what happens. If Trump's not going to be around forever, Mr. Xi will. All right, let's talk a little bit about data centers. A chatbot is kind of a workplace tool. Yeah, I know. Mr. Xi thought Obama was a joke, because he was. That's what Flippy2 said, and I totally believe that. Yeah. And Della Meow says that she lived there in Taiwan in the 60s for 2 years, and we were always on alert. Absolutely. Nobody is going to sneak up on the Taiwanese. And they have the best technology in the world. They're the leading edge of the leading edge of technology. So a chatbot is a workplace tool. I've used them. You've interacted with them. They're getting better. They really are getting better. The chatbots that I've communicated with lately answered all my questions, and they were pretty off-the-wall questions. Like right now, I'm trying to build a race engine for this car I have outside. And one of the issues is the intake manifold's a little too high with the engine that I just bought, and I want a lower profile manifold. So I asked the chatbot, the AI chatbot, I want a lower profile intake manifold. Is it going to fit this engine? Yes, it will. What are the drawbacks? Well, it won't work with the stock truck fuel injectors. So you have to buy aftermarket fuel injectors or make a spacer because it goes below the fuel rail. So I looked at the pictures on the fuel rail to the fuel injectors and I said, that's bullshit. Just change the brackets. I could design my own brackets for the fuel rail, drop the fuel rail, and make the existing fuel injectors work. So that's what I'm going to do. But then I got looking at the intake manifold, and it's polished aluminum. They have another one that's powder coated black. Well, I like the powder coated black one because I can laser etch it. I can laser etch it and bring the aluminum through the powder coated black, and it will look awesome. So I went and used Grok to design a laser etch logo to burn into the powder coating, and it's going to look amazing. Yeah. Anyway, these AI bots have gotten a lot better, and they do a pretty good job. So a Pew Research Company survey was conducted a couple months ago, so it's pretty current. It found that 49% of U.S. adults reported using chatbots like ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, etc., up from 33% of adults in 2024. That's actually pretty good. That's like a 30% increase. 40%. About a quarter of adults said they use them daily. I highly doubt that, but I'll go with it. Using AI is often a quick and simple thing. You ask a question and you receive an answer. The infrastructure behind the AI we have so quickly grown accustomed to, however, it is anything but simple. It takes a lot of latency, has to be overcome, and it needs access to data. And the data is where? The data is in the data centers. It goes across transmission lines, right? And all this stuff has to be kept cool. Now, true, the older technology used a lot of water, but they don't use water anymore. The new modern data centers don't use water. They cool the chips another way. Because they have actually AI designed a copper plate that goes on the chip that facilitates lower pressure and higher heat transfer to get the heat from the chip into the liquid, and then the liquid can be used, it can be recirculated. And you don't have to use the chill water towers or the cooling towers, which evaporate all that water into the air. In other words, to take the energy out of the water so that you can take the energy out of the condensers. It doesn't work that way anymore. Anyway, in a March survey, 70% of Americans oppose the idea of data center construction in their local communities. I think they're stupid. You don't understand what the modern technology is. If you understood what I understand about data centers, you would put together a committee. Call me up if you need to. I'll go with you. Form a committee and go to the zoning board, go to the county commissioner or the city council, and solicit a data center to come to you. Pick the land. Pick the land where you want it to be, the place that would be most advantageous for you on the highways, to get workers there and back, because the advantages of having a data center in your neighborhood are amazing. First of all, you get very fast internet, very fast answers. Second of all, you get 300 to 400 very high-paying jobs, starting at about 80,000, going up to about 400,000 a year. Yeah. The property tax value goes sky high, and now some of it's going to be negotiated, but the bottom line is where you were getting tax revenue off of dirt, now you're getting tax revenue off computers and the dollar improvement that was made to that property. $130, $140 million to build a data center. Do you know what the property tax revenue on that is over time? It's enough to build new schools, hospitals, roads, police departments, all kinds of infrastructure, a great benefit to your community. And remember, I told you, they don't use water. They don't use water. And the modern ones, they have and require them to build their own power plant. You're going to build a gas-fired turbine. You're going to drill a gas well on the property, and you're going to build your own gas-fired turbine, and you're going to produce 50 megawatts of power. You get 30 megawatts, and the community gets 20 megawatts. What a deal. What a deal. All that paid for by the data center, and it's a gift that just keeps on giving. because those 300 people, they got to buy houses. They got to go to the movies. They got to go shopping. They got to have restaurants to eat at. They got to have races to watch and movies to go to. All that stuff that comes from those high value people living in your community. And those high value people have high value kids. Yeah. And those kids will be going to your schools. Exactly right. You guys are not thinking right. The backlash, of course, is outdated. And who's it run by? Where do you think the backlash is coming from? Where do you think this community effort, this marketing program to say, oh, data centers are bad. You can't do that. You have to go out and protest. You have to stop it. Did you see the statistics? 7 out of 10 Americans are saying, hell no, I don't want a data center in my neighborhood. Damn, people, that's a really effective marketing plan. Who do you think's coming up with it? Who do you think invested the money to get that 70%? Exactly. It was America's enemies. It was Britain. It was China. They're the ones that are saying, we got to go do marketing campaigns and tell the American people that data centers are bad. It's going to dry up all your lakes and your rivers. It's going to brown out your community. You're not going to have any electricity. The only thing you're going to have in your community is a data center. What a bunch of bullshit. All lies. Every bit of it is lies. And you know what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen. The ability of those data centers to process data is going to improve. It isn't going to stay where it is. It's going to be like the fiber optic industry. You remember that? You remember when fiber optics was the rage? Oh my God, Owens Corning was building factories as fast as they could lay the bricks. And then what happened? Oops, the software got better. Yeah, the software got better, and the fiber optic cable was able to carry 1,000 times more data than it carried before. Owens Corning almost went out of business because they invested in cable manufacturing, and nobody needed it. Nobody needed it for like 15 years. It was crazy. It almost killed them. Same thing is going to happen in the data centers. New technology, faster servers, better software, better compression software. It's going to be smarter. No. It's redundant, people. It's redundant. It's called edge technology, edge philosophy. They're decentralizing the web so it can't be taken down. There is no central know-it-all place. They all know it all. All the data centers know it all. And why? Because of latency. Because of latency. Let me explain that to you. When I'm clicking away on my computer, you know when I get frustrated? When the damn site takes time. Come on, man. I got a 1 gig connection here. What's going on? That's called latency. And if it bugs me, I'm just a little guy. You know it bugs the shit out of a factory that's trying to run. They're trying to make sales. They're trying to order inventory. They're trying to manage supply chains inside the plant. It's very data intensive. Do they have all that storage space on site? Hell no. It's all in the cloud. It's all in the cloud. And so when there's latency, when there's a delay, like the nearest data center's in freaking Raleigh, 3 hours away. Well, that goes at the speed of light. Yeah, but seconds are hours. Hours are days. Days are months. And you lose business. Because why? Well, our computers are down today. Well, how many times you've been on the phone with somebody trying to get something done? They go, give me a second. My computer's really running slow today. That's latency, people. That's latency. If you have a data center, Microsoft's building one about 1.9 miles from the carriage house right here. They just got done laying all the supply lines going down the street here. Took them all summer long. Oh, well, they started actually last winter, laying the lines down to the Microsoft plant or the data center. When it goes live, I'll bet you we could get 5 gig service here. Oh my gosh. I'm just a little guy, but could you imagine the factories that will come here because that data center is here? Lots of them. Lots of them. And they will hire thousands and thousands of people. So you people that are out there saying data centers are bad, you've been sold a bill of goods. The Chinese and mostly the British are telling Americans data centers are bad. They're not bad. Old data centers did use water for the cooling towers, because the cooling towers made the cooling water, which took the condensers for the chillers and took the energy away and leaked it out into the air. And they evaporated a lot of water. But they don't work that way anymore. They haven't worked that way in 5 years. The new data centers don't use any water to cool. It's all closed loop. It's all closed loop. The only water they use is for bathrooms, right? And the kitchen. So get out there and tell them you heard this on America Free Radio, and tell the naysayers to kiss your ass. You're going to go to the city council and say, we want a data center, and here's why. Because the speed of AI's physical expansion, it has to have fast answers. And it has to have those answers from legislators like city councilmen and county commissioners, state senators and congressmen, and even the federal government. Because that's who's footing the bill for the data centers. Yes, the investors are coming in and spending the money, but the tax incentives are what's going to attract them here, right? You think they're going to pay full property tax the first year that they finish that data center? Hell no. They're going to have a 10-year tax holiday. But 10 years is nothing, because there's a thing called derivatives, okay? They could sell the future tax revenue because they know when it's going to come in, right? Now, the AI boom may be national, and you may not even think about it, but the real impact is local. It's local. That's the whole idea, people. That's the whole function of edge technology, is that the impact is local. We're not talking about a fusion center in Virginia or Arlington. We're not talking about a data center on 40,000 freaking acres in Utah. We're talking about Charlotte. We're talking about Vegas. We're talking about Mobile, Alabama. That's where the data centers are going. It's local, and the infrastructure is felt locally, and the benefits are off the chain. A multi-billion-dollar data center company can place a pin on a map that fits its requirements. But unless companies and regulators and the local people can come together and solve the concerns, the data centers are going to face an uphill battle. I'm saying be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Fight our enemies and facilitate the data centers in your local community. Make the terms, make it easy on yourself, make it great for yourself. Go to them and negotiate. You'll get a great data center, you'll have great jobs, you'll have fantastic internet, and you won't have any of the downsides. Especially if your state has lots of natural gas, like Tennessee and Kentucky and North Carolina, South Carolina. There's gas everywhere. And the pipelines don't exist. So they drill a well on site and use that natural gas reservoir to fire that gas-fired turbine. We just did one down in South Carolina. We just reviewed one last year. An old sewing factory that had a gas-fired turbine, been closed for a long, long time. Data center people came in, bought that administrative building and the gas-fired turbine, and they're refurbishing it all, and they're going to be up and running this fall. They're probably going to beat this Microsoft plant over here because they built from dirt up over here. All right, let's talk a little bit about Social Security. I'm on it. You're on it. Many of my listeners are on it. Half my customers are on it. Had a great story today from a housewife whose husband had stage 4 prostate cancer. Started taking the ivermectin a year ago. They've been buying from me on a regular basis. He has now got a clean bill of health. He's in total remission. No surgery, no chemo, just the ivermectin. And I get stories like that 10 times a week. 10 times a week. Social Security Administration recently announced that the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund is going to run out of money in 2032. That's like 3 days from now. The government is no longer going to be able to pay retirees their full promised benefits at the time. And by the way, assholes, it's not benefits. It's my money. It's not a benefit. A benefit is something you give me. I gave you the money for 60 freaking years. I'm just getting it back. It's my money. It's not a benefit. Where did the money go? What did you do with it? Well, they gave it away to illegals. And this new date, this 2032 date, is way before what we originally thought it was going to be. We thought it was going to be something like 2045. That's a little bit further away. I can breathe a little bit. Why is it a rapidly approaching crisis for us, the people on retirement? Because Congress has squandered the money. The Social Security Trust Fund, I don't know why they call it that. It's only going to last for 6 more years. That's it. 6 years, it's done. That's about 6 days from now. Then the government's going to have to borrow more money. And guess what? It's not going to be available. The draining of the Social Security Trust Fund has been a violation of trust. The program's trustees said the revenues are less than expected because of last year's reduction on tax on Social Security benefits. They're lying. They're lying. That does not have anything to do with it, or very little to do with it. It has to do with people who didn't pay into the system and who don't deserve anything out of the system getting our money. More than half of the federal spending goes to entitlements. $3.8 trillion out of $7 trillion overall budget goes to entitlements. It goes to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. President Trump has done his part. He's reduced the amount of money that goes out to federal employees by a bunch. That's about 23% of our budget. So if we petition them to stop giving the money out to illegals, stop giving the money out to people that never paid into the system, guess what? They will go home and our Social Security will be ours for the rest of our lives. Another 40, 50 years. That's the truth. And there's no way around it. You can't make anybody believe anything else. Plenty of money in the system always was. You just spent it. You misspent it. All right. That's it for tonight's program. We will be back on Sunday night at 8 o'clock. Don't forget, I'll be on Agent X11 tomorrow and Friday at noon. The link is right down below on brooksagnew.com. And don't forget to check out the conference. I told you it's the best spiritual event of the summer. Buy tickets and we'll see you there. All right? So be good, Earth Explorers, to one another. Go out and look for the good in one another and help it to grow a little bit every day. And before long, we will save the planet. That's how it's done. Peace, Earth Explorers. Now go and do great things.